I'm your host, Sean MacKenzie. Thanks for joining me once again on my channel on data engineering and data analytics. In this episode, we're going back to our Python on Snowflake playlist, and we're going to talk about execute stream, which is a very, very handy method that you can use with your Python connector to execute SQL from an SQL file that might have a whole bunch of SQL statements in it that you want to run. And this is very, very handy for if you have a bunch of statements that need to run, and you can swap that file out and run it whenever you need to. It could have 2 statements in it or 100 statements or whatever. And this provides a nice programmatic way of executing a whole bunch of statements from a file. So without further ado, let's get to our execute stream on Python. Okay, so this is a little screenshot of the data that I have in the Snowflake browser. And this table is just a simple table with some project comments. It has an ID column and a comment column. We're going to run some updates against that. And this is another table that's in my database that has some tasks in it, people to do certain things. And you can see that there's 11 rows and some some tasks for people along with suggestions and stuff like that. And so what I wanted to do is I want to update that through my using my Python connector, and I'm going to use this file that has 6 rows in it, some insert statements. I'm going to insert a row into project comments. I'm going to insert some into the tasks. I'm going to update a task row, and I'm going to delete a row. You can see I'm going to do that by executing this file here, and you could also do create database and do some DDL in there if you wanted. So basically, I'm going to start my Python idle shell. I'm just doing it from the standard installation of Python that you can get at python.org, and I'm going to create a new file from the idle shell. And we're going to import our Snowflake connector to get started. And we're going to create a connection, a Snowflake connection that we're going to use. But first we'll give a little bit of feedback to the user just to say, I'm opening this so we can see some progress there. And then what we'll do is create our connection object. And we can do that. We'll say CNN is equal to snowflake.connector.connect, and we'll paste in. I'm going to paste in the connection info from a previous video that we did. I use this one all the time, and you'll note several things in here. It's very handy in your connection to make sure you specify your warehouse, database, and schema. You don't have to. You can change those, as you run your code, but I find it's easiest, especially if you're doing a specific thing in a database, just make your connection directly to the resources that you need. Now we'll go back up, and we're actually going to add from Codex, we're going to import open, and that's going to allow us to open that file and go through the contents of it, the file that I showed you before with the SQL statements in it. So the first thing we'll do is we'll specify our file. So I'll just say SQL_file is equal to C, and then you got to make sure you put your slashes the other way. I always try to put them the standard way for Windows. And then once we have our SQL file, we can just say with open and SQL file, and then we're going to put R in there, and that's going to escape a whole bunch of characters for us. And then we'll say that our encoding is UTF-8, which is what we're using on that text file, and that's going to give us a nice little text file that the program's going to recognize. So we'll do that as F, and then we're going to loop through, and we'll say for CS in execute stream, and then we'll put our F for our file in there that we've got open. And that's going to go through. It's going to start a loop through each of the items in there, and then from there we're going to run a loop inside of that, and we'll say for each return in the cursor, we'll print that. And so we'll print the return sort of result for each of those. And that's all we need for that. We'll definitely put cnn.close on here. That's going to close our connection, and that'll sort of release our resources so we don't leave that open. And it's good to put this inside of a try catch block if you can, or try except block, I should say. I'm just sort of coding it out so you can see it in action here. So okay, and so we're ready to go. We've got our close and we've got done there, and I'm going to change that password up there to the new password that I just created, which I'll change right after I program this. And so there you go, there's a new password, and we're going to hit F5 and see what we get in the output here. So when I hit F5, application starts, and you can see it goes to opening. It's creating that connection to Snowflake, and there you go, it started to loop through each of the items in our SQL file, and it's giving the return values for that, how many rows affected, etc. And if we wanted to go and check that out, we can open up the Snowflake browser there in the browser. You can see down below there's a couple of rows that have been added, 10 and 11, which have this is an insert from my script file, and you can keep inserting stuff. And this is our project comments table, and that's exactly what we wanted to see there. And in our other table, the project task table, we also had a bunch of updates that happened. We had a couple new rows added there, 100 and 101, and we deleted row number 2, if I remember correctly, and row number 9 got updated to Jason instead of Mary. And so as you can see, all of the updates that we wanted to happen happened the way we wanted them to, and that is how you use execute stream with Python Connector. Hope you enjoyed today's discussion on how to use execute stream with Python on Snowflake. If you like what you saw today, please give the video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet, and click the bell when you see the bell. And if you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below. Have a great day, have a safe day, and I'll catch you next time.